All right, thinking leads to eating. This doesn't sound exciting to me. There's nothing here that I really want to eat. I'm not excited about any of my food choices. Now, on the surface, you might believe that those thoughts, there's nothing exciting for me to eat. I'm not excited about any of my food choices. There's nothing that sounds appealing to me, would actually be a positive thing, right? Like it would be, oh, guess what I won't be doing? Eating anything because nothing sounds appealing to me. However, I have coached enough people now, and I actually just had a community member submit a question for one of our live webinars where she asked this exact question. And what I see this as being is a lead-in to your habitual overeating or your habitual breakdown in your eating. So when you have the thought, when your lower brain kicks in and says, oh, nothing sounds good, nothing sounds appealing, everything sounds kind of blasé, whatever it's saying, what it's doing is it's delaying you from eating a nutritious meal that's necessary for your body. And then and this is the cliche way that this goes down. You have that thought, you go to the pantry, nothing sounds appealing. And you know what's weird? I vaguely even remember having this myself. Like just for a little bit, not very much, but there was like a period where I went through this too. And I kind of realized it was a negative cycle for me as well. But so this idea that you go to the pantry, you go to the refrigerator, and nothing sounds good. So, I had the salad planned, I had, an egg white scramble planned, it doesn't sound good. So what happens is you start to delay your eating time. And then before you know it, this is the cliche response, 2-3 hours goes by or whatever, and then you're overwhelmingly hungry. And then of course you eat whatever is quickly accessible. That's the body's override for you not feeding it, okay? We'll always go to highly palatable food. Most people, it's things like chips, crackers, cheese. It's just those fun foods that we have in the pantry. It's never a ham sandwich. It's never a nice big salad. It's always these highly palatable, quick go-to foods. So what I want to encourage you is to start to see that a lot of these thoughts we have lead us into our habitual loop. The thought, nothing sounds appealing, exciting, whatever, is a way for you to delay eating. Then you get overly hungry. Then you give in to that hunger by eating something highly palatable and easily accessible. So what we want to do is, there's a couple ways you can go about this. One, you can pre-write out your day and you say, no matter if I'm hungry or not, I'm going to eat that ham sandwich for lunch. And you sit down, you eat it. And yeah, it's not going to be the most exciting thing in the world. It's probably going to be pretty boring, right? But you have to change the story around food as well. Like if you look at animals in the wild, you don't see a squirrel looking for nuts and going, I'm not in the mood for nuts. Nuts are feeling a little boring, a little not so exciting. Oh, the lion just took down the gazelle. I had gazelle last week. I really don't think I want gazelle today. Like that's just feeling a little bit subpar, like this is not how all other mammals and creatures exist. They eat what they eat. It's pretty damn boring. And they do it because there's a necessity behind it. Humans have this crazy brain that have a lot of things to say about the food that they eat. Well, I ate that yesterday. I can't possibly eat it again today. Ooh, I hate leftovers. This is so boring. All that drama around food is coming from your lower brain. It's coming from your thoughts. It's not the reality. Like if you're in the wild, I hate to tell you this right now, like if you're running around with a hatchet or a gun trying to survive in the wild, if I throw you a piece of ham, you're eating it. If I throw you a half a can of beans, you're eating it. Like you're not going to care when you're that hungry and you're in a different environment where food is scarce. You're going to eat, okay? Your human nature to consume food, keep your body alive, will always override it. So what you have to start to realize is that story, that this isn't exciting, this isn't interesting, this doesn't taste delicious, change it. Every meal does not have to be exciting. Every meal does not have to be amazing in my mouth. It needs to fill me up and satisfy me to where when I come up on 3 hours later, I'm not ravenously hungry and diving into the pantry. That's the story you want to start to adhere. And here's the other cool thing. With not every meal being super exciting and like a fireworks explosion in your mouth, when you do eat the food that you enjoy, or you get hungry enough that a meal that you really do like is presented, you will enjoy it more. So when you start to identify this meal is just, it's just a meal. It's a necessity meal. It's not a fun explosion of taste and delights in my mouth. But when I do have one of those, boy, was it good. And boy, did I enjoy it. And that was way better than what I even remembered it being. You see what I mean? So if you constantly, every day, had nothing but fun, excitement, and a thrill in your mouth with every single meal, I don't believe that's possible. But if you were, the threshold for your excitement for a meal would actually go up. Like it'd have to get better and better and better, because if that's all you're allowing yourself to eat, I'm not going to have that tuna fish sandwich. That's far too boring for me. I'm going to have this instead. If that's all that you allow into your dietary intake, you create a situation where, you know what? You have these expectations and you're only eating this. And then it creates a situation where now the hedonic pleasure is needing to be increased, because those foods will eventually become boring because you're eating them all the time. So now we have to pursue new exciting foods. So it's kind of like a never-ending cycle that you're never really going to achieve. So better to settle in to this idea of some meals are fantastic and exciting. Some meals are kind of boring and cliche, and that's okay. I eat on a schedule because that's what my body needs. Just like you wouldn't say to your toddler or your baby, you know, this is our eating schedule, but you know, this is a very boring meal for you, so we're just gonna skip it. Like, you're gonna have all heck break loose from making that decision. So you're not gonna do it. You're gonna feed the kid on a schedule, just like you feed your dog or cat on a schedule, regardless of how boring the canned cat food, dog food, whatever is. They need to eat regardless. Okay, that's like a parental pet care responsibility. So the reason I'm sharing all this is because what happens when you have the thought, this is not exciting, it's not delicious, I'm not going to eat anything, you're welcoming in the inevitable overeating of highly palatable food that will eventually happen, and you're creating your own overeating, you know, going over your calorie limit cycle with that thought. So even though I know most of you may not struggle with that, I do want to encourage you, if you do, start to change the story, start to realize that you actually don't want every meal to be that way, because eventually those meals will not be that way. And I want to encourage you to start to realize feeding your body on a schedule is more important than waiting for it to taste a certain way. Even if all you're doing is having a ham and cheese sandwich at every day for lunch and you're consistent with it, you're going to do much better when it comes to those impulsive eating. And I'm just throwing out a ham sandwich. It could be anything, but just get consistent with it. Don't wait for yourself to feel like eating or to wait till it sounds appealing to eat, because that's requiring a lot of thinking to go on versus, oh, this is my lunchtime, I'm going to eat this. And of course, we're not talking about eating food that you don't actually need or want, but when we're talking about basic care of the human body, feeding it about every 4 hours, pretty good idea, especially if your long-term goal is weight loss. But just realize that thought that this meal needs to be exciting, this thought, it triggers a habitual loop that eventually leads you into the arms of the potato chips in the back of the pantry. I've seen it play out multiple times. I hope that helps. Please go ahead and like and subscribe, share the video, and I will talk to you soon.